I guess the first thing we should do is we should talk a little bit about our final. So let me go through this quickly. I want to point out, maybe you guys won't be able to see that. So just a moment. Okay. Okay. This is the final exam week schedule from the university. And notice this is for Tuesdays and Thursdays. And our class meets Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8:30 to 9:45. So we should be on Thursday, December the 10th from 7 a.m. to 8:50. Okay. But I'll point something out. And is there anybody who would like to chat with me while I sort through this? Diego, are you there? You have a mic this morning? Yeah. No mic. Okay. How about Arjan?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. How's it going?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good. So doesn't 7 a.m. to, what did they say, to 8:50 seem a little inhumane?
Yeah, that's kind of lethal.
It's kind of early, right?
Yeah.
7 a.m. in the morning. Eek. A little inhumane. So what I would like to do is do things like we had normally done, which is go ahead and do our, 8 a.m. to basically 9:30. But what I don't know is if anybody else has a final that's going to conflict with that. So I'll just ask right now, everybody that's here, if you guys and girls can meet at a regular time for the exam, or I should say, if you can't, put your hand up because you have another final. Nobody. So everybody can meet later. Okay. Well, I wonder if we're gonna end up, because honestly, I could get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and be there with you all. But are you backing me up on this, Arjan, or you have no problem with getting up at 6 to take the exam?
No, I'm with you.
Okay. What about you, Miriam? Would you rather have it at our regular time? Are you there?
Yes.
You would rather have it a little bit later, right? In the morning. Okay. Well, that's what I will try to do. And I'm going to go ahead and do an announcement right now. Announcement. Because things are online, it's a little bit maybe harder to know if there's anybody who's going to be affected. Dear student, our final exam date is Thursday, December 10 at 7:45 a.m. Usual protocol. Um, and I'll just leave it at that. Best H Smith. Okay, so I posted it on Blackboard, and you guys know, you can girls know, you all know. So does anybody have any questions for me?
We still get the 2 hours to take the final, right?
Well, no, not exactly. Okay, just remember this, Sonica. The window of time, like from 7 to 8:50, is at the instructor's discretion. So like that's just like when you'd normally be scheduled on campus where they have a room available. But I could say I'm only going to give you 60 minutes to do the exam. You know, we're going to start at this time. So it doesn't mean like we have to take a whole hour and 50 minutes. But I will let you know that I think that there, should be plenty of time. I could be persuaded because normally we were doing, remember, an hour and a half. And then I would give you guys like 15 minutes to upload. So instead of doing an hour and a half, I would be fine with doing an hour and 45 minutes because as long as you guys, handle your upload later, it's not a big deal for me. So are you saying you would like to have an extra 15 minutes?
I was wondering if we could get almost all of the time except like less than like 10 minutes at the end to turn everything in, because since like when we were doing the other exams and the quizzes, we were only doing one of the problems, like one of the assessments, like it was just on a specific
It's the same way though.
chapter. I thought this was going to be on like all the stuff that we're learning so far from
Nope,
consumer
nope,
choice.
nope. We're just doing our last topic.
Oh, okay.
I thought you said we were doing cost curves and all that.
Well, that's part of our last topic. Remember, so that's Hannah, right?
Yeah.
So remember Hannah, basically the course is divided into thirds, right? We've got supply and demand, the consumer choice problem, and then the latter half is everything to do with supply decisions, which includes costs and profits and competitive equilibrium, monopoly equilibrium, cartels, Corno, Stackleberg, oligopoly stuff.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, that instead of just like I'm basing it on the practice problems we have, like each set of them. So you're saying that we are doing it on a few sets of practice problems, correct?
Which is what we did for the first exam, remember?
We only did it on like 1 or 2, but this one's like almost 4 to 5. So that's exactly
but they're all
like
pretty closely related. I mean, but listen, yes. So, what we're arguing over is 5 minutes. So I'll give you an hour and 50 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The
But
real
what's
thing
that?
is the upload is what takes long, in my opinion. I mean, like in my opinion, you either know how to do it or not.
Yeah.
But
Well, I have been, remember before we were ending at 9:30, and then I had a half hour basically for you guys to upload it, which I figured is enough time because it's like 15 minutes to kind of assemble your stuff and then 15 minutes to like upload stuff. You know what I mean?
right, it's just kind of weird. You got to take pictures of it, or I use like an Adobe scan.
Yeah.
And you have to send that over to my PC, and then I use my PC to upload it.
Well, yeah, I mean, like everybody's gonna have kind of their own protocols, but it seems like everybody can do it in a half hour. That hasn't really been a problem for.
No, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I was just saying that if there's going to be any amount of extra time, I would feel like it'd be better just for the upload rather than.
Yeah, well, actually, it's probably better to, if I'm gonna give you an hour and 50 minutes, I give you an hour and 50 minutes plus a half hour to upload.
Yeah. All right.
So,
yeah.
so you're fine, but the hour and 50 minutes for having access to submit on Ignithium makes more sense, because remember, you put your answers in there and then it's going to
Mhm.
score against those answers. So once that window is closed, like if you're, you know, putting some touches, finishing touches on your documentation or whatever, as you're preparing your document to upload, and you say, oh, I made a mistake, you can't go back and
Right.
change it. You're like dead in the water. So yeah, but an hour and 15 minutes, we can do the whole, you know, quote time. And then I can
Gotcha.
give you guys a half hour. I mean, you know, honestly, this particular exam in lots of ways is the most challenging, but I'm actually going to try to make it even simpler for you guys.
So,
And
Professor,
yeah,
one thing to reiterate, so if it starts at 7:45, that means we get until 8:35 to work on this for the whole hour 50?
well, no, actually, remember our normal protocols is so like we meet at 7:45, but we don't really start like at 7:45. I email you and get things set up, and we start at 8.
Okay,
So
so then
so
what?
you would have from 8 until 9:50.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Sure. So, but this is probably gonna make you really excited, Sonica, since I'm talking to you and Ryan. What I'm gonna do for you is I'm actually gonna show you an example of about, there are gonna be a total of, I think, 24 questions on the exam, but I'm gonna show you guys an example of about 12 of them.
Mhm.
So these are literally, this is a version of the exam. You know, I send out sample exams. So pay attention. You guys see it?
Yeah.
So these are actually questions from the exam. And the reason I did this, because I forget who it was asked last time. It might have been Hannah or somebody else.
Yeah, it was.
But you all asked, well, where is competition? Like, how does it work? And so you can see every single question has exactly the same demand and the marginal costs. And then it asks you, consider, I'm reading the first question, number 2. Consider an industry with 2 price-taking firms, right? So it immediately begins asking you about, you know, competition, right? And again, for those of you that don't remember this, this is like a heads up, right? If I say price taking, Sonica, do you immediately think competition?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should, right? Because that's like the signature characteristic of being in a competitive environment, is that the firms are price takers. So it's a code word for competition.
Mhm.
And also, I want to point out, so then it goes from competition and asks about consumer, producer surplus, total surplus, and all that stuff. And then it moves to cartels, and then it moves to Cournot. And I haven't shown you guys and girls, all of you, the rest of the questions, but you can probably imagine from there it moves on to Stackleberg and so forth, right? So, and you guys can come back. I've recorded this, you know, and look at these questions again. But one of the other things I'll point out to you, and I've seen some students like struggle a little bit in the past with what I would call the relative simplicity of these exam questions. And do you notice, Hannah or Sonica or Ryan, what makes these questions simple?
They're
Maybe
the same
Yeah.
numbers.
All the same.
Well, no, because on Ignithium it tends to be the same thing too. But and maybe Derek notices.
Is
I
it
don't
like
know.
the MC and the M2?
Yeah, right. Why are those simpler, Hannah?
Because they're the same for each one, so then we don't have to calculate it every time.
Well,
Oh,
no,
yeah,
not
just-
even that. That's
Yep.
like the same
Well, the one we did
question.
last time, it was 5 and 5, so that was
Well, that was
symmetric.
nice. Yeah, that was symmetric. These are not symmetric, right? They're different. But they're still pretty simple. You know, does anybody notice why? Well, it's because the marginal cost functions don't have an intercept term,
Oh, I see that.
right?
Yeah.
So when you look at your formulas, and I've had students get hung up on this in the past, but honestly, I would call it either, exam anxiety, or honestly that you just haven't practiced enough. But regardless of the reason, I'll point it out to you now. In all of our formulas where we have like, C and D, where C is the intercept term, you just change those C's to zeros and all the formulas still work because you never end up dividing by the intercept term. So when you're looking, and anyway, I'll let you guys think about it, but these are simplified versions. So you guys have the questions here. I would encourage you all to, come back, take a look at these, because you're going to see them exactly on the exam, and draw out the marginal cost curves, draw everything out as you're studying for the exam. And then that way you'll get, the sense that, yeah, actually this is pretty simple, right? And straightforward. Does anybody have any questions about that? Because I'm going to stop sharing this now.
You can go ahead and stop sharing. I was just
Okay.
gonna ask, are we gonna have graphing problems?
Oh yeah, for sure. And actually, I didn't show you because I like to keep some mystery. But I said there were 24 questions, and unlike the prior exams, I actually, on this one, I added in 2 graphing questions at the end on Amithium, which means you don't submit an answer for those. It just tells you what the graph is that they're requesting, and you draw that in your blue book or on your exam and upload it like you did before.
Perfect. All right,
So
so it would be at least 2 of those then.
yeah, so there are going to be 2 graphing questions, and so in terms of total, let's call them calculation questions, there are 22, and then I think there are 2 graphing questions for a total of 24 questions.
Gotcha. And
So,
I don't know if you're willing to give a hint on what the graphing questions are going to be more focused on. No?
well, I will give you one hint. It's going to have something to do with competition,
Gotcha.
Corno,
Ah,
Monopoly, that kind of thing.
I see.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
So, but that's as good as I'm gonna do it for you. But honestly, I mean, if you go back and you look, they're only well, I'll tell you that one of the graphing questions, and you just have to remember that it's not um it's not worth like a ton of points. I mean, obviously you want to get every question right, but one of the graphic questions, you would be, unless you read everything thoroughly, and it's kind of like a challenge question, it would be difficult. You go through all the lectures and pay really close attention. There's one graphing question that is, I would just say especially challenging. But the other one is pretty straightforward. And so if you just like go look at, basic diagrams for competition and, monopoly and that kind of stuff, you'd be hard pressed to miss it. So one, and let me double check here, make sure yeah. So yeah, one of them is super simple and one of them is pretty hard. So, I would say, go over your, basic diagrams for competition and monopoly and that kind of stuff. And, you're as well prepared as you reasonably could be. And then if you're really, 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 wanting to be uber prepared and you feel comfortable with everything else, then I would say, go and kind of scour the material on Corno and Stackleberg and look for
Gotcha.
stuff that's kind of subtle.
More difficult than the choice basics graph
Well,
one?
no, actually, I think that the well, this is the different thing, right? So honestly, the graph for the choice basics, in and of itself, when we were, looking at the income and substitution effect stuff, that was, we went over it a lot, right?
Mm.
So there were like no surprises. I mean, it might have been difficult to do
Yeah, I remember
because
that one was pretty complicated, but we
there,
did go over it.
yeah, there are lots of details, but like I went over the details, like threw them in your face, right?
Right.
So if you missed that one, what can I say? I mean, like, yeah, you might have like goofed up a little bit, but if you didn't get that one, it's just because, you didn't like put in the work, even though, I went over and over it again a couple different times. Couldn't miss it. But like the Corno and Stackleberg stuff, if you think about it, if you go through all the other lectures that I posted for you and whatever, you're gonna see it, but it's not, or at least it's going to be discussed, but it's not something that I threw in your face. So, that's why I say you have to kind of dig, and, be really thoroughly prepared. But the other diagram that you're responsible for is, I mean, if you miss it, it's because you didn't pay attention in principles, or you got distracted by something else. So like you should be able to do the first diagram almost
Gotcha.
surely.
All right, and then it won't be 15% of our total grade like the choice basics one was.
Well, let me take a look. So we have 22 questions, and the graphing questions, it says they're worth 7 points. So yeah, I think it's like 15%. But like I said, 4 of those points are, you should get them for sure. The other 3, which is like about what, like
Okay, so the more complicated one is the less points one.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and anyway, I guess the bottom line is that yeah, it's still, the graphing is going to be worth about 15% of your total grade, but half of that, or a little bit more than half of that, like 60% of it, you should get if you're, if you graph, if you understand at all what's going on, with the basic stuff, you should get that. It'd be almost like, though not exactly, but me like saying, hey, listen, Ryan, here's your equations, draw a supply and demand diagram, indicate the equilibrium, tell me where the quantity, I mean, if you can't do that at this point, then like, either I'm failing you or you're,
Right.
uh,
Right.
have gotten really deep into the idea that it's legal to have marijuana on a regular basis. There's something going on. It's not that like it's a super hard class and I tricked you. No.
Gotcha.
Um, and by failing you, I don't mean like literally giving you an F. I meant like, like
Right. No.
I'm not doing my job.
Gotcha.
And you're not doing your job either for some reason. It's a shared thing. So I think that, like half of the graphing points or a little bit over half the graphing points, you all should get with no problem. The only people that aren't gonna get it, like I said, are the people, they're not gonna watch this lecture, they're not doing their work, they're not whatever. And you always have that in like, I don't remember how many students we have this semester, but 40 something, there's gonna be, a couple people here for whatever reason. Sometimes,
There's 40 people in this class?
I think so. And maybe
Wow.
a little bit less.
I thought
I'd
there
have
was
to.
like 25 because I've never seen
Nah.
more than 25 in the morning.
Yeah. Well,
It is
maybe
early
not
though.
everybody's here. Yeah. Well,
Waking up is very hard.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
but anyway, yeah. There are more than the people that are here. So again, people have work and family stuff. I don't want to belittle anybody that has special challenges that whatever.
Yeah.
But the point is that there are going to be some people that don't get it and distinguish themselves. And I also want to say, I always say this at the end of the class, is just know if you happen to be one of the people that has to take the class again, because about 10% of the people going through do, you will always be welcome back in the class. I'm ready to see you next semester and help you get this material, because honestly, I don't know if you guys can really tell, but this really is the core of our major. So if and if you haven't taken other classes, then it may take you a little while to figure this out, but this stuff just comes back again and again and again and again. It's all about supply and demand. It's all about how the industry is organized. It's all about the consumer decisions. And yeah, I mean, so I kind of think of this class as being like the bridge building class in a civil engineering major. And what I mean by that is that nobody wants a civil engineer that can't build a bridge. So this class is different. If you take another upper division class with me, then it's my grading policy is different, because I don't worry if you take environmental economics, for example, that you're going to do some serious harm to somebody if you don't really get that stuff. But here, these are skills that everybody in the major should really know in order to call themselves an economist.
Right.
So this is one of those classes where you have to really meet the learning objectives in order to move on. So anyway, but that being said, I don't care if you meet the learning objectives in one time through, two times through. Every once in a while I get somebody this is their third time, and I'm willing to
Right.
help you guys learn how to build bridges. Yeah.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. But if you get this stuff, you will you will have a much easier time in the rest of your classes, and you can hold your head high at graduation and know that there's a reason why you are going to get paid a different amount than somebody that gets a degree in comm. You know something that they don't.
Gotcha.
So I mean, besides obviously in the other classes too, like I think the other really important class in the major is econometrics. So I mean, that's, you know, like day in and day out, economists that are doing analytical things in their jobs, they're doing this kind of stuff that we do in this class, but where they get the parameter estimates from is from data. So really you just put the data together with the theory and you're off and running. You're employable.
Mm.
So, okay, that's all I have to say about the exam, unless anybody has any particular questions.
This
Okay.
isn't really about the exam, but like, for I was just like looking at the grades because I haven't really been here a while because since it's all on Ignithium, there's nothing actually on Blackboard for grades. But
Yeah.
there's an assessment number 2 and an assessment on 1020. Those are the same assignment though, right?
So I guess I would have to kind of punt for a minute, Daniel. I will tell you that obviously we've had 2 exams, right? And I think
Yeah,
those are
like
labeled as assessments. And we've only had 2 exams, and we're going to have our 3rd exam. So that's it. Before that, other than homeworks, we did like 2 sample assessments, right? They weren't really, they were going to be graded like homeworks, like you did them or you didn't do. It was just to get everybody familiar with the process of uploading to Blackboard and working with Ignithium for doing assessments.
yeah.
So does that sound right? I don't know if we're talking about different things because I don't have a list in front of me, but as far as your grade is concerned in this class, what you need mostly to be concerned about is the 2 assessments that we did that were
Oh,
real
I think I
assessments.
see his. So assessment number 2 and assessment for 1020 were the same, but you were only supposed to use the assessment for 1020 link.
Ah,
Okay.
gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, because
And if I
like I'm
think
in.
you look on like the assignments part, the like other assessment number 2 link is gone. It's only assessment for 1020.
Okay, thanks. I was just making sure because like I'm entirely certain that I turned 2 homework assignments in late because reasons that I just kind of missed the deadline and turned it in like an hour late or something. But
Okay.
that last one I was like just making sure this isn't an actual thing. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, like I was trying to explain, what you needed to be most concerned about were the consumer choice assessment, right? And let's see. Guess, sample. Yeah, so on mine it says like the assessment number 2, it says item is hidden from students.
Yeah,
So
so we
you
posted
should,
it and then there was 2 links, I think, if I remember correctly. And
yeah,
then you emphasized for 1020 on this one, and then you got rid of
yeah,
the other one, if I remember correctly.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
this is just on the grades tab.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
you just
I
go
see what
on the My Grades tab, it still shows up there.
oh, okay, yeah, and anyway, if it turns yeah, so our, I guess in terms of way that our stuff is labeled, our first exam was the assessment for 1020, and that's what you should have uploaded to. Does that make sense?
Okay, thanks.
and then the consumer choice assessment. Okay, so the other stuff is just homework and the sample stuff. Okay,
Okay, thanks.
sure.
Quick question. Do you know when you could upload the answers to here? Just so we could get like an estimate of what our grades will be?
Well, as I said before, your estimate, Sonica, is based on what you see on Ignithium when you go under grades. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
understand.
but like that's for the assignments, but for like, or sorry, that's for the assessments, but for all of the homework and stuff, we didn't really turn that into Ignithium per se. We just kind of submitted that.
No. But remember, the homework is based on substantial completeness. Right?
So we just
Yeah,
put
it's moreover just that like Blackboard gives us a better example of what our grade is just because like teachers use that to put in the weighted averages for all of these different groups. So like
Right.
we could easily be like, yeah, I have like a 95%. And then one day, and then when our grades come back, we're like, no, I got a B plus or a C minus, you know, like even though it won't be that drastic from a 95 to a C minus, like you do get what I'm saying, that like it's also like scary for us to be not in the know of these things.
Yeah, no, I totally get you.
No.
And you're gonna have to deal a little bit with the insecurity. Okay. So the only and you know, I also want to point one other thing out, Sonica, which is totally gonna drive you nuts, but you're just gonna have to get used to it. As you move more along in like most majors, right? Two things happen. One is that the learning responsibility gets more shifted your direction, and the amount of feedback that you get that's kind of like tailored, you know, is gets smaller, and that's for a lot of different reasons. But I mean, you know, the whole idea is you become an independent learner and all that kind of stuff as you move on, especially if you go to graduate school. That sort of thing's common. But in this class, you shouldn't have any real mysteries, right? You know, you did your homework or you didn't do your homework, right? The only thing you have to you know is, I mean, this is like a trust thing. I mean, and obviously, just between me and you, if and everybody else that's here, if for some reason, you know, at the end you get your grade and you're like, wow, I completely don't understand what happened, you can always ask me and then we can have a meeting and talk about it, right? I normally don't change grades unless there was a clerical error. And so I just look at the scores and add them up and, you know, go from there. So as long as all the scores are correctly entered. And so, you know, in the last 10 years, I think I have had 2 clerical errors. They're pretty rare, but you can imagine hundreds of students, right? Every semester. So every once in a while, you know, do anything 1,000 times and don't make a single mistake. And, you know, you're awesome. So every once in a while. But there shouldn't be any mysteries, because you either did your homework and you did it the right way or you didn't, right? So there might be somebody here that uploaded blank pages and it says there's homework there, and you know if that's you or not, but that wasn't you, right? Or their work this is clearly inadequate, you know, maybe they have their assignment, so but they didn't, you know, document anything. So your homework's graded on substantial completeness, and then for the 2 assessments, the only thing that should be outstanding, um, for just about everybody that's here is the graphing part, right? And that is 15%. And you're right, you could go from 95%, if you got 95%, down to 80. So you don't really know if you're like A or B, but you shouldn't get, you know, trashed over that. And you know, and then you have your final exam. And somebody asked, you know, when will you unlock the grades after the final? So as far as the Ignithium stuff is concerned, within 24 hours, you should be able to view your records on Ignithium. And it's too bad you don't have a mic, Diego, because you have a lot to say. Well, I think you know how to proceed on the final, right? Which is,
I mean, I get what Diego is saying essentially, just because like how you said, there's like what he's saying, there's a solid 15% for each single assessment we've taken with you that we just don't know about. And like the thing is that like although you're saying that, yeah, a lot of professors do this, a lot of us have not received professors who believe that they are going to send the grades at last minute or just at the very end, essentially. So it's kind of like that's why we're not used to this. And like I
yeah.
get that that's your system and your grading, but we just want
Mm.
a little bit of leeway, just because yes, we know all the other stuff purely because Ignithium is there grading our answers. But for the 15% in grading, that's on you. That's what you're giving us, you know?
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. And you know, honestly, for me, that's why I do that during grading week, because that's when I can get it all done. So,
yeah,
you
because
know,
it's like
I mean,
it's
that's
essentially like
just the way that it is. But I'll let you know um, that when I was teaching in the Netherlands, the common practice there, and you'll find this, you know, in other places, is to have one final exam, which is on the day of the final. Nothing else. They don't assign, I mean, they'll say, oh, these are good problems for homework, and they'll go over them, but they never collect it. So it's just, you know,
yeah, I know
this,
how that system works. I've India's the same way, but it's still pretty linear in the sense of how grading is done and how they know like right away, like because of that final, they know that if they do the homework and if they do everything, then yeah, we know what's going to happen on the final because there's just no curves. But like once again, with those 15%, we could think that we're doing a great job with these graphs and everything, but there could be minuscule details that you're looking for that we don't know about or like we didn't put in there. So essentially,
yeah,
it's like it's more of a learning thing for us to know, okay, Professor Hunter likes this, and this on our graphs. That means we need to ensure that on the next exam, we need to have this, and this on our graphs. It's not like it's not more over like
yeah.
yeah, we need to know. It's more that how can we improve so that we can learn on these tests and then do better on the next test, you know, like it's more like that.
Right. Yeah. And so honestly, Sonica, one of the things that I tell students a lot of times is I don't care whether you get a C or an A, right? Um, I don't have any, you know, opinions about that. In this class, I only have one job, which is to make sure that you cover the learning objectives well enough that I know that you understand the material well enough to move on in the major. And that's a C, right? So for me, that's why I really rely heavily on the Ignithium stuff. The graphs just help me calibrate. And I know you care about whether you get an A or a B or a C plus or a B plus or that sort of things, but I don't worry about that. And so I'm not trying to train you to get a, you know, to do better on the graphs as you go along. You know, if you had ever wanted to talk in office hours about like, okay, you know, I'm really nervous about the graphs. What are the things I need to look for on the graphs? I mean, I do the graphs in class. So anyway, I think we've gone far enough, but I mean, the main point is at this point in time, with the feedback that you've given, or yeah, I've been giving you that you've gotten through Ignithium, you should know whether or not you're achieving the learning objectives in the class. And, you know, you should feel comfortable like, oh yeah, I should pass unless I bomb the final. And that's kind of, you know, as good as it's going to get. So anyway, I don't know if there's any other questions, but that's where you are. So yeah. Yeah, and again, Diego, I had explained, so one of your sort of questions was that you know, it records all your answers, and that's right. I mean, you have to remember you can only count 1 point per question, and it has to be the last one. So you have to go through that on your own. Okay. Okay. And yeah, and Daniel, the only thing I would say is realize I'm reasonable. So, you know, if things are a little bit late, then it's a little bit off. If they're a lot late, it's a lot off. So a couple of hours is probably not fatal. I wouldn't worry about that too much. Okay. So any other general questions? Okay. And okay. So more to the material itself. No. Yeah, yeah, so you should realize, Daniel, that okay. So let's see. Since you were talking, Sonica, are you still there? Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. So let's go ahead and work on question number 8. And I'll put you, Sonica, and Hannah, you there?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put you and Sonica and Daniel. You guys are the first 3 in my feed. So so let's work on number 8, and I'll give you guys about 10 minutes to do that. If you want, you can ask a question about how to get started in case you don't know how to get started with this question.
I want help.
Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Okay.
know.
So remember, whenever we're dealing with Corno or we're dealing with the Stackleberg leader follower model, the first thing that we have to do is worry about formulating the firm's reaction functions, right? And we went over that last time. But in this case, right, what we do is we formulate the reaction function for the follower, okay,
Is that
first.
the Q2 equals F of Q1?
Well,
Last time?
okay, so you just spit out some some formula, but I want to say, so remember the reaction function is we formulate the residual marginal revenue and we set it equal to the marginal cost, in this case for the follower, right? And you can see the marginal cost for the follower there, right? Are you with me?
Yeah.
So the trickiest part of this is figuring out the residual marginal revenue for, the follower. But so if you look at the notes last time, that's what we did. So you have to get the residual marginal revenue first. So I'll let you guys, girls, all of you, think about it for a minute, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss it. Okay.
I didn't understand it, but I've also like looked through the last video because I wasn't here last
Oh,
and I still don't understand, so I have to just take the weekend to learn myself.
okay. And what about you, Daniel? How you doing?
I also wasn't particularly present last class. There were some problems on Tuesday with computer issues. So
Okay.
yeah, I've
Well, okay, that's a good thing. Okay, so look at the demand equation. So let me talk to you, Sonica. I will try to catch you up to speed, and you and Daniel, so you guys can both unmute. So we have 266 minus 9 QB. Okay. Okay. So let's do share whiteboard. And I'm going to kind of play a little bit fast and loose with some of the subscripts. So you can go through the video from Tuesday and follow along if you don't understand some of the stuff that I'm doing right now. But I'm gonna omit the subscripts. So it was 299 minus, let me look. Oh, 266. 266 minus 9Q. That was our inverse demand equation, right? Check. Everybody good? Okay. And then remember that there are two firms here. So the market quantity is going to be the sum of the quantities for the two firms. So what I'm doing right now with these two equations is I'm formulating the residual demand. Okay. So the residual demand is the amount of demand that's left over for one of the firms, given that the other firm produces a certain quantity. Okay. So we're interested in formulating the residual demand for firm 2, just to keep our eye on the ball. So I'm going to call that P2. Okay. And then I'm just going to go ahead and substitute this in minus 9 and Q1 plus Q2. Does that make sense, Sonica?
Yeah.
Okay. And so we could put this under the heading of residual demand for firm 2, which is our follower. Okay. Is that looking good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what about you, Hannah? You understand what I'm doing now?
Yeah.
Okay. Daniel, are you okay?
yeah following. So
Okay. And obviously there's supposed to be a multiplication symbol there. I'll try to drag it along. So then notice, and I'm just gonna, if Q1's output is fixed, then this with respect to Q2, right, is a simple linear demand equation. Do you see what I have in square brackets there? That's like a constant,
Mhm.
Sonica, if Q1 is a fixed number, right?
You just multiplied not 9 star to Q1 and Q2, right?
Yeah, because star means multiplication, so I just distributed it over the term in parentheses.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you did.
Yeah. So that's the residual demand. Now, the revenue for firm 2 is going to be P2 times Q2, right? And Derek, are you there? You follow this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'm just going to multiply everything by Q2, Sonica, and we can put little stars there. Minus 9 Q1 times Q2 minus 9 times Q2 squared. And here you have to be a little bit careful because the squared is just over Q2. It's not the coefficient, just to be sure there's no confusion. So does that make sense? So that's our revenue for firm 2.
Yeah.
And we want the marginal revenue for firm 2, which is the derivative of this revenue with respect to Q2. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So since the equation here has Q2 as a variable in each one of those places, it's the derivative of a sum is the sum of the derivatives. So we can differentiate each one of those terms individually and get 266 minus 9 times Q1 minus 18 times Q2. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You good? Right. And then for the reaction function, are you good, Hannah?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so for the reaction function for firm 2, we take the marginal revenue for firm 2 and we set it equal to the marginal cost for firm 2. And the marginal cost for firm 2 was given as 5Q, which would be like 5Q2. That's the only thing that you have to be, and I'll just stop for a minute, but I'll point this out. I pointed it out last time in the last video, but since you know, this is going to be on the test, it's important to you know, take note here in particular, just so you don't get confused on the day of the exam. So I'll stop share, and then I'll share, and I'll go back to Ignitium. So you notice here, Hannah, are you there?
Yeah.
So it's just important to point out that, like, for the question,
I say how different is it?
well, not just that, but notice that it just has MC1 is equal to 10Q, right? And that should be clear that it's not the big QB here. That's with respect to the output of firm 1 alone. Obviously, firm 1's output should only depend upon, I mean, firm 1's cost should only depend upon firm 1's output. So in our notation, that is Q little Q1. You see what I'm saying? And likewise for MC2, 5Q is with respect to the quantity of output for firm 2. So that's 5 little Q2 in our notation,
Yeah.
which I think is better. So I'll go back to the whiteboard and share. So we have MC1 is equal to MC2.
For The end of MR2, it says minus 18Q2.
Yep.
Is it Q2 squared?
No, because remember, you
wait,
take the derivative with respect to a quadratic, then you remember I taught you guys the power rule.
Yeah.
Quadratic comes down and multiplies the coefficient 2 times 18, and you drop the power by 1. Right?
Yes.
So so we have 2. Oh, you know what? I did make no, I didn't make a mistake. I'm good. 266 minus 9 times Q1 minus 18 times Q2 is equal to, we said 5 Q2. So then we solve this for Q2 to get Q2 as a function of Q1, and we have Q2 is equal to, I would add 18 to both sides and get 23 Q2, and then divide both sides by 23. So I'm going to get a 266 minus 9 times Q1. And all of that is over 23. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's our reaction function for firm 1. Now, for Stackleberg, once we have the reaction function for the follower, then, and again, there are other videos on this. So this is just like a recap of stuff. So you could go look at the other videos too, if you want extra practice. But so you substitute the reaction function of the follower into the leader's profit max problem. And really what this boils down to is, remember, profit maximization is going to imply that the marginal revenue of firm 1 is equal to the marginal cost for firm 1. That's the leader. So if we look at the residual demand for firm 1, and I can grab the residual demand for firm 2, the only difference is just going to be the order. Okay. Okay. So now, are you following this, Sonica?
Yes.
And then I just put that in there. Okay. So does that look good, Hannah?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm going to have P1 is equal to 266 minus 9 times Q1 minus 9 times all of that stuff. So, you know, at this point in time, if it was me, I would start to deal with the fractions on my calculator. But since we're just showing you how to do it, I'm gonna do the calculations at the end to turn everything into fractions. The only thing you got to be careful about is, you know, that you make sure that you know, you're reasonably precise, right? in doing this. So and okay,
You want to know the decimals?
what that?
You want to know the decimals?
It's okay. I think I can do it at the end and not like worry about it too much. So I'm gonna do 9 times 266, and it's gonna be that divided by 23. And then I just gotta get my parentheses right. And then notice we have 9 times 9, but they're both negative. So plus 81 divided by 23. Q1. Right? Okay. So we're pretty good. We could rearrange things a little bit here, and I'll go ahead and do that really quickly, just so we can see what's going on. Okay. And okay, so I'm assuming that everybody agrees with my algebra so far. Does everything look good to you, Hannah?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, at this point in time, I mean, we could, and what I would normally do is I would consolidate, these two terms. I would do minus 9 and plus 81 divided by 23 and turn it into one coefficient. Obviously, we got to be a little bit careful. So I don't want to cause anybody any difficulty with doing this. So maybe we should go ahead and consolidate that. Do you want to tell me what the coefficient should be now? I can look on my calculator and see. So I have 9 minus plus 81 divided by 23. And I get minus 5.4782.
For 81 over 23?
No, I had that's
Oh, you consolidated with the 9.
yeah. Because what we want to do is I'm just simplifying everything. So that boils down to minus 5.4782.
Yeah.
Right. And I suppose we could go a little bit further, and we could go ahead and look at the intercept term too. Do you want to tell me what that turns out to be then?
I got 161.9132.
Okay, so let me verify that.
I did it earlier.
266 minus 9 times 266 divided by 23. Yeah, and I get 161.913.
Yeah.
Right, minus 5. 4782. And you got 5.4782 also, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, wow. So now we have this other residual demand, and we can go ahead and get the revenue for firm one, which is going to be this P1 times Q1. So we know we're going to end up with a quadratic again. And so I'll just grab this. And so we take all of that and multiply it by Q1. And are you following this, Daniel? Are you good?
I'm probably going to have to like look over a bit of it again later, but like I mostly follow it to some extent.
Okay. Okay. And what about you, Sonica? How are you doing?
When you went from multiplying Q1 to that entire term, and I don't see it.
Okay, well, let me try to explain. So this is Hannah. You're not.
Yeah, that's what I meant. You're good.
I just didn't finish it yet. But so now, are you fine?
Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, we get the marginal revenue for the leader, which is going to be 2 times on the coefficient there. So I'll do 5.4782 times 2, and I get 10.9564. Okay. And then finally, we can find liters quantity by the profit max condition. And remember, that's just MR1 is equal to MC1. And let me go ahead and grab that, grab this, and okay. And we said that MC1 was 10 Q1. Okay. Look good?
Yeah.
So then we get our profit maximizing quantity. So normally on the board, I would say this is like Q star equals our 161.913 divided by 20.9564. And you have your calculator there. What does it come out to be?
7.726.
7.726.
Decimals you want?
Okay. Now let's go ahead. Okay. All right. So I will stop share, go back to share and Ignithium. So now see, we haven't figured out the followers output yet, which we can get from the reaction function. And we need the total output to get the price for demand. But down here, question number 10 says, how much was the total output produced by firm one?
And
Right?
that's 7,
And we said that was what, 7.726?
726.
Submit. Yay. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we got it within rounding error, right?
Yeah.
So, and then hopefully, did you follow Sonica? What we did?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you said to find the output, you put 7.72 into the follower reaction function?
Yeah. Then we know back here, we have this follower reaction function, right?
Yeah.
And follower output from and Derek, is this looking good to you?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. And so we're just taking this and putting it in there. And okay, so do you want to tell us what Q2 is then, Hannah?
Yeah, hold on.
And I'll put it as double star. I'm so excited. What's it gonna be? What's it gonna be?
8.54.
8.554. Okay, so should we see if we can find it? Okay. Well, so why don't we get the industry output?
Which is
Just-
adding those together.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, 16.27.
Okay. Equals 16.27. And then industry price. And
And you plug that into the PB function.
demand. Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
We had 266.
119.57. If you want the answer.
Q. Is that what you did? You plugged it into what I have there?
Yeah.
Okay, and you got what?
119.57.
119.57. Okay, so let's go check our answers. Okay, so we said the price. Oh, wow, look at that. Boom. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And total output.
Yep.
Did you get it?
And then
And-
we got 10 and 11.
Yeah, and so I'm not gonna do these because you all can do them now. So what's the profit for firm two and whatever. One of the things that's kind of interesting, I'll point out, is which can be counterintuitive because it just depends on the particular problem that you get on Ignithium. But notice here, right? it turns out that, I mean, I don't know if you noticed what's interesting here. Do you notice anything, Hannah or Sonica
I
or
clicked on.
Daniel?
No.
No.
Wait, what,
Okay.
what are you saying?
I said, well, there was something interesting about this problem. So we got everything right. Yay for us. I'm clapping for you, Hannah, and for Daniel and Sonica. But notice this, right? The leader ends up with a smaller output than the follower. Isn't that interesting? Because you would normally, like the way we were talking about it before, you normally think that the leader, right, is going to be the dominant player in the industry, have the majority of the market share, right?
Yeah.
Are you just saying like, yeah, because I said that, Hannah, or do you get me?
I mean, a little bit of both,
A little bit of both.
to be honest.
You're the professor, so I agree. No, but you know what's also interesting is, remember, the leader in this case has a marginal cost that's twice what, remember, the marginal cost of the follower was 5. So even though it's twice as expensive for the leader to produce the output here, they still end up with a total output in equilibrium that's close to the follower. Anyway, I don't know if you all find that interesting or not. I know it's getting, the final is really just around the corner, so you're probably a lot more focused on just figuring out how to solve these problems rather than what they mean. But I can tell you that if, and I think, well, you could solve another problem, but if they were, meaning the leader and the follower were symmetric, they had the same marginal cost function, then the leader would produce more output than the follower.
You said if they were the same.
Yeah, because the only reason why the leader is producing less than the follower is because their cost is so much higher. So the leader still does have an advantage in the market, is the main point. It's just a little bit more difficult to see this example.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's all I have to say. And I won't say anything more because I don't want to muddy the waters.